Hey there! In this video, I'm going to be discussing a few different types of microphones, the best type of microphones to use in a live recording of a choir, and lastly, a budget proposed for recording a live choir. So first off, I want to discuss a few different types of microphones. There are many different types of microphones that people can use in live performances and recordings, and through my research, I found that what it comes down to is your personal opinion on what you think sounds best in your recording studio and with your instruments and with the things that you're trying to accomplish. So basically to try a few different things and see what works best for you. So the three main type of microphones are condenser mics, dynamic mics, and ribbon mics. Dynamic mics are the most popular. They are very sturdy, very versatile microphones. Dynamic mics produce sound from a coil that is wrapped around a magnetic diaphragm, and when sound waves hit that diaphragm, that's what produces the sound back out. And dynamic mics are really good for live performances, for public speaking, for interviewing. They aren't affected too much, not vulnerable to outside influences, weather or different things going on. They're super durable for those types of things. Condenser microphones differ from dynamic in that they don't have a coil. So they just have a thin conductive diaphragm that sits close to a metal backplate. And when sound waves vibrate off of that diaphragm, that's what produces the audio signal. And so because they don't have that extra coil wrapped around the diaphragm, they are very sensitive to the sound, and they produce a very pure, untainted sound. And for that reason, they are the most popular mics used in recording studios. A lot of people, though, nowadays also use condenser mics in live performances. It used to be that dynamic mics were the way to go in live performances and condensers weren't, just because they weren't as sturdy. Condenser mics, they are very much influenced by outside influences and weathering and things like that, and are pretty sensitive to high frequency sounds. And so, but now they've become better built, and so they're more durable for things like live performances. Condenser mics also need an outside power source. They need either phantom power or batteries. So you want to think about that as you're deciding which mic to go with, especially in a live performance. The last mic I'm going to talk about is a ribbon mic. These mics are omnidirectional, meaning they pick up sound from all around. And so these mics are great to use if you're recording multi-instruments at one time. And they also have a sensitivity to higher frequencies, so they're great for picking up high pitches, so brass instruments, woodwind instruments, high notes on vocals. Ribbon mics would be a great way to go on that. I also want to mention with mics that there's three different types of directional microphones. There's unidirectional microphones. Those just get the sound from the front of the mic, and they reject anything coming in from the back of the mic. There's bidirectional mics, which gain sound from the front and the back. And then there's omnidirectional mics, which get sound from all the way around the microphone. So if you're wanting sound from a live production and you want it the whole stage, an omnidirectional mic is the way to go. But you have to be careful. They also get a lot of feedback because of that reason, because they are getting sound from everywhere. Okay, the next thing I want to touch on is the best mics to use in recording a live choir. I have a small choir. We have about 30 kids in the choir. The most important thing in recording a live performance is the venue that you're going to be recording and performing in. For my situation, we perform at our elementary school gymnasium, so it's not that ideal. So if you have the option, look for a venue that's going to have great acoustics, that's going to really help your recording sound better. So in our situation, we just have to use our gymnasium. But the mics you would want to use are a stereo pair of cardioid small diaphragm condenser mics. So you're going to want to get a pair of those and then place them. There's a few different techniques of placing them. You can place them, an XY technique is when they are kind of perpendicular to each other. They're kind of on top of each other. And you're going to want to place those at least 3 feet away from the choir, and then at least 3 feet above with an overhead mic stand. And you kind of try that out first, and then if you're getting too much sound, you can back it up, go higher. Another method that I would like to try when I do it is the spacing method. And depending on how large your choir is, you would use 2 to 4 stereo pairs to try this out. You would just space your mics at least 3 feet apart, again at least 3 feet from the front of your choir, and to be able to get sound from all areas of your choir. And then the other thing that I would want to have is a spot mic right in the middle for soloists, and to just get that extra sound coming from the whole choir. The other thing that you're going to need is a recorder, and I found that there's quite a few just handset recorders that are pretty small and very easy to use. So you would just go ahead and plug in your mic cables to that handset recorder, and then there's an easily removable flash card that you just plug right into your computer, and you can use your own DAW to mix and edit and master that recording. Okay, the last thing we're going to talk about is a budget for recording a live choir. We're going to assume that we don't have any equipment yet. If you do have like a MacBook, a computer where you can download your DAW on, then you're up a step already. But let's assume that you don't, and those would be about $2,500 right there. So we'll start with that. And then you're going to need your stereo pair of cardioid condenser mics. So I found a pair of Shure KSM 137 for about $665. And then I want to have a couple handheld dynamic mics for soloists and spot mics. And I found a couple of SM58s that come with the stand and cable for about $120 each. So I want 2 of those. And then I'm going to want some overhead mic stands, 2 of those to place my stereo pair mics. And those are about $118 each. I need a couple mic cables. Those come in at about $8 to $10 each. And then a handheld recorder that I found is the Zoom H4n for $270. We talked about, no, we didn't talk about, so a DAW that you're going to need for when you put your flash card in from your recorder so that you can mix and edit. Depending on what DAW you use, Pro Tools, Logic Pro, I like Logic Pro, so that's going to be about $200 right there. So that's going to be around $4,100 right there. Again, that's if you need to go ahead and buy a computer. Without having to buy a computer, you're looking at around $1,600 to produce a live recording of an elementary school choir.